It's Peacemaker season, players. Part 2 to be exact. Chris Smith is back and all his buddies from season 1, even his fuck buddies. Adrian counts. It's been 3 long years since Sir James of Gunn graced us with season 1. In the interim, he was a little preoccupied becoming the co-head honcho of DC Studios, as well as going, well, as one could only describe, as complete garbanzo mode, birthing the DCU with the more savory elements of the DCEU. Well, all of his stuff. You know, the good stuff. Back to back with Creature Commandos, Superman, and now the glorious season 2. And bet there's a plethora of other things he's been doing to get the DCU right. The pace this man is putting on the game right now is absurd. He's shitting blood so that we will finally see all these characters in their live action glory. We get some interesting world building, to say the least, when it comes to these first 2 episodes, some name drops that I believe aren't just for nothing, and we get some light shed on one of the most horrific plague ever grafted onto the human soul, bird blindness. Second only to Batman blindness, those who can't tell that there will be a brand new DCU Batman. That way we can have both Robert Pattinson and Matt Reeves cooking in the Elseworlds like it's very important to do, and it seems like something Matt Reeves wants to do, as well have a fantastical Batman for the DCU to interact with all the other heroes, plus the fact that there is for sure going to be a multiversal circumstance in the future where Pattinson will cross over and have all the interactions that you want right now as well. Shit, I can see Affleck and Bale coming back too, but they can't. So they very deliberately placed the catch up from last season to set up the new canon, which Gunn has said most of the things in season 1 happen the same way with slight tweaks here and there for all the things they will need to adjust for the DCU, which I assume is mentions of the Flash and Wonder Woman and things like that. But I think they handled this the best way possible, which is with a simple retcon, a piece of new info that contrasts previously established events, namely the Justice League moment. Loved the moment in season 1. That was Gunn having fun and saying, hey, if I can play with these toys in this sandbox, I will, because why would I not? But Peacemaker, for the most part, even with all the calling out of the other superheroes that he does throughout the season, is very much apart from the DCEU up until that ending, of course. And Gunn said, hold my beer, and changed it to the Justice Gang and the L's with Guy and Kendra as the focus. This was simple and effective, and I think apart from a full reboot was exactly what he needed to do. I've been on record saying, regardless of how much I love the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, I would not be opposed to letting them go in order to have a solid chance of seeing a flourishing, competent DC live action universe, especially after watching the MCU take off this past decade while DCU just wasted time. It was extremely frustrating as a DC fan, and to know now we have the faculties to get the ball rolling in an actual way is so relieving. But it seems Gunn has truly spoiled us once again by essentially saying, I could not give a fuck. We're keeping all the best DCU stuff, and if people call it lazy, so be it. They can't call it bad. More like Peacemaker. But episode 1 starts with Chris taking Eagly for a flight in the quantum unfolding chamber and discovering, in a kind of Monsters Inc. coded way, another version of his door, and he passes that threshold and finds himself in another reality where his father is still alive, hit with the looks like you've seen a ghost line, and dipping. We get our new intro, which was hype in its own way, but less celebratory as the first one and more melancholic, I feel. This is obviously foreshadowing for an emotional gut punch by the end of the season. Adebayo comes through to pick Chris up for a Justice Gang interview, and we find out she's having some lady troubles of her own, so we get some setup for Adebayo's arc this season. All this emotional setup so damn early into the season, you love to see it. But we get to the interview and we get our first hint of world building with the Batman villain White Rabbit leaving in a huff, and she's actually pretty new. She was from the New 52 Batman Dark Knight, and she basically can duplicate herself into an entirely new person, like that's her power. We find out soon exactly why she was leaving in a huff. It seems the Justice Gang interview isn't as grueling as it is just kind of cruel, on account of talking all the shit they do about Chris being stupid, thinking they were on mute. And Guy was funny as hell here, but they hit a huge sensitive spot with Chris when they ask about his indiscriminate history of murder, which Chris has done a lot of growing from his trauma that was explored very well from season 1 that causes him to be such a reckless person. I remember reading some issues of Checkmate from the late 80s, and it's so funny to see everyone describing Peacemaker as this insane loose cannon maniac, because that really comes through in the show, and you could see how someone can become this way with the upbringing that Chris had. So he's pouring out his soul, and they show him how indifferent they are about it, so he dips again. And I think in the case of best wrestler turned actor, I get why Bautista is at the top. Love Bautista, he certainly had the best resume, but seriously, the range of emotions John Cena goes through in just this this scene alone, from comedic to sadness to embarrassment to guilt-ridden, is just incredible. I'm just putting it out there. We see Harcourt dealing with toxic masculinity, which is pretty interesting. Suppressing emotions, prone to fits of violence, which makes sense. You know, on the rare times women are afflicted with this, it's not because of the only thing they've eaten in a day is orange peels, or that they haven't had someone to read their mind and get them a disgusting, shitty matcha latte. It's because of that toxic masculinity. Did I mention I have wired headphones? But essentially, Harcourt is being blackballed by Amanda Waller and can't find work, which is one of the most concerning and anxiety-filled emotions you could have. Not knowing how you're gonna pay for this or that, or whether or not you'll have to do something completely out of your wheelhouse just to get by. That shit hits, and Jennifer Holland is doing a great job of selling that frustration and that fear. After she dips from there, we get our little Chris and Harcourt reunion, some 30 seconds to Morbius shade. It seems that they have hooked up, but Chris cares a little more than she actually does by calling it essentially forgettable and a fuck up. So this leads Chris to retreat to his most carnal desires. He busts out the bongarino, the rainy day nose clams, and has himself a fuck fest at his place. You know, people got all their shit hanging out, swinging about, jacking off, holding hands, and Chris says fuck it and opens up the quantum unfolding chamber and goes back to his alt door, sees his alt accomplishments, his beautiful alt house, and his brother alive and fully grown up. We get a Bloodhaven name drop, Nightwing stomping ground, and he asks if he's okay and gives him a hug. Him, his father, who loves him in this universe, and his bro all chop it up over drinks, talking about battles and fucking imps. This version of him also was dating Harcourt at one point, so much trauma is just being flipped on its head in so little time. But all the while, Rick Flag Sr. is keeping a close eye on Chris via Economos, and Economos is torn since he doesn't consider Chris like his best friend, but they went through all this shit with the butterflies last season, so you can't really just be strangers after that kind of experience. And he knows Flag is gunning for Peacemaker for the death of his son, Rick Flag Jr., leveraging all of his power at Argus for revenge. And whenever Chris opens the chamber, they get a ping, and Flag can use that as an excuse to go after him, send him back to prison, and maybe even kill him because of all the shit that happened with Metropolis. Harcourt seeks out violence to deal with her emotions. Adrian pops in quickly and is still working at Fennel Fields and desperately just wants friends. The episode ends with alt Peacemaker finding Chris Prime and them fighting in the quantum space. Again, super dynamic, brutal, solid action from Gunn, incredibly well lit also, but in very Peacemaker fashion, he ends up killing his alt self, which it's almost on some Looney Tunes type shit, how he gets impaled. Man is so whimsical even in death. Staring into your own dying eyes has gotta absolutely fuck you up, and if it doesn't, chopping your own body into pieces, watching it burn has got to. You must be prepared to burn in your own flame. This man's so damn silly, I love him. In episode 2, during this Pieces party, Chris finds his alt phone and sees it loaded up with videos and pics of him and Amelia loving each other in this other timeline, being cute together and whatnot, all the shit he doesn't have in his universe. So it's almost kind of like a Coraline or Shrek 4 type situation where they see this alt life that they have, where they presumably have everything that they've always wanted and everything's completely better in every way, but there will more than likely come a dark turn, which I'm sure will come in the later episodes. We get more insight on Adebayo's relationship, and I'm on Adebayo's side here, okay? Kia is mad because Adebayo would rather follow her dream with her security business than move back to Gotham. Bruh, the rent in Gotham has to be like $50 for anyone to get mad at this. You want to get clayed up or turned into a popsicle on a random Tuesday? Danielle Brooks does a great job here. The no love you back is an absolutely devastating move, and she plays that very well. We do also get to see Rick Flag Sr. read the file on Flag Jr.'s death, and you see the foundation of this season being built upon the complexities of a man seeking redemption and a man seeking revenge. There's so much emotional and dramatic dynamite that is going to explode by the end of this season. We also get introduced to another legendary new character, Langston Fleury, played by the amazing Tim Meadows. I fucking love Tim Meadows. Just his cadence, his tone, his delivery. We got a cool guy here, Ginger Cool. And then he completely mogs Economos by ignoring him, not being cool with the name, and eating his McNugget, checking out Leota with the sound effects, shitting on Adrian's fit, keeping secrets to himself, and his only weakness is some silly ass shit like bird blindness. Total Sigma. But basically, AD is over there letting Chris know Argus is watching him, and that they can tell when he goes into the quantum unfolding chamber, and that Rick Flag Sr. is on his ass. So Chris has extra reason to leave it alone, but of course, that's not so easy. After a reunion with the 11th Street Kids, which was nice to see everyone together again finally. Best buds with the best bud. Love that shit. Emilio once again does not reciprocate Chris's feelings, so he drowns his sorrows, heads back home where unbeknownst to him, Argus sent a team of agents to sweep for the tech Peacemaker's hiding, but they unfortunately get attacked by a duck. Goddamn bird blindness. Tim Meadows, with those code names, is too damn good, just completely dismissing other people's feelings for really no good reason at all. But Eagly came in clutch, protecting the house. Chris is in a drunken stupor when he gets back and does the worst thing you can do. Drunk text your ex. You're telling me you want more problems when you wake up the next morning? He opens the chamber up again so that the message will deliver, and the episode ends with a hey and broken heart emoji. Man, it's crazy how I needed episode 3 immediately after this episode ended. Like, it's pretty wild how Peacemaker had to kind of fight its way to exist with dropping not only a whole season for a character nobody knew about or really cared about, but then dropping a 3-episode opening, and then now they have us hooked since episode 1. Comedy is amazing, the action is great, it looks awesome, and the motivations are solid as hell. We have the case of Chris being this trauma-filled villain turned aspiring hero who is of way more use to the world when he's not locked in a cage, kinda invincible-ish, and now that the world still rejects him, he finds the other world where the grass is greener, where he has everything he's ever wanted. Why would you not dip your toes in it? Who could be compelled to not do that, you know? And then you have Rick Flag Sr., who had his noble hero son killed by this man, this villain, so he's leveraging all of his governmental power against him, because why wouldn't you as a father do that? And it seems like all these characters are going to have to make more tough choices this season. They have all the emotional and dramatic material they need to build a marvelous season out. It just depends on what they actually build by the end of it, which I think they're going to clutch it like the first season. Apparently they only showed press up until episode 5 because the last 3 episodes are apparently insane and feel like a totally different show. Now, as to what that could mean, I'm not so sure. I have no grand theory just yet, but honestly, I will say something bold here, okay? Dare I say brave? Players, there has been infinity Batman references since the show came out. Rainbow Creature, Batman villain, defeating Ultra Humanite in Gotham, Blue Haven name drop, which was hella unnecessary, Kia wanting to move back to Gotham, White Rabbit, Sasha Bordeaux, Bruce Wayne's once long time ago bodyguard in the early 2000s from Detective Comics 751, Clayface starting production, and I'm sorry, but there is no way in hell that Clayface happens and DCU Batman is not in it. I think that would be absurd. Bruce Wayne or Batman is coming through. That's my hot take. I know David has got to come through towards the end of the season, and I'm so damn excited to see him again. I just feel like we're going to get something crazy Batman by the end of the season, and I don't think it's all just world building, but let me know what you thought of the first 2 episodes of season 2 of Peacemaker, whether you're liking it or not. But that's pretty much it. If you liked the video, leave me a thumbs up, comment down below, and if you want, subscribe. I always appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope all of you guys are well, and I will see you in the next one.